Welcome to the WrestleTalk News. I'm Pete Quinnell. In yesterday's news video, I briefly mentioned that Goldberg had pitched himself to face Sting in his retirement match. But in that same interview, it turns out there was some other spicy material when Goldberg directed his attention to Vince McMahon. On the Steve and Captain Evil podcast, Goldberg was asked about his relationship with Vince, to which he said, "He gave me the opportunity to put my wife and my son in the front row and gave me the ability to perform again in front of them. So I owe him everything. Until we went to Saudi Arabia, and he asked me to put Roman Reigns over, and I had COVID." Wait. He had COVID? And Vince wanted him to travel to Saudi Arabia and face Roman Reigns? I remember calling him from my house here, and I said, "Listen, here's the deal. I'll do it if you give me a retirement match." So I put myself in a horribly shitty situation to get what I wanted too, but to satiate him and to give him what he wants. The problem is, he never held up his part, so Vince is a piece of shit as far as I'm concerned. This isn't the first time that Goldberg has mentioned that he worked Elimination Chamber 2022 in exchange for a retirement match, but this is the first time he's called Vince a piece of shit for it. Also, he had COVID, like actual COVID. Also, in yesterday's news episode, hell of an episode that, you should watch it, I spoke about Chris Jericho's online spat with Stephen P. New, the attorney for Ace Steel and CM Punk. After the two couldn't seemingly agree on whether Jericho had an NDA regarding Brawlout or not, perhaps Jericho was feeling some remorse about the whole ordeal. Maybe he felt bad about having this argument on Christmas Day of all days. Or maybe he didn't, but regardless, Jericho's at it again. Or is he? WWE posted a video on Instagram of CM Punk's entrance at the MSG house show, his first match back in WWE. And in the comments of that video, "Why, sir, that's Chris Jericho, sir." Jericho left the comment saying, "Congrats," complete with 3 whole fire emojis. Now, is this Jericho sincerely congratulating Punk on his return to the WWE ring, or a little troll move and insincerely mocking him? I'll let you decide, but it's definitely not the first one. Meanwhile, in the land of last night's AEW Dynamite, there was a shock debut for the company that you definitely would have missed if you weren't in attendance of the show. Or on Twitter, because it wasn't broadcast. Before Dynamite began, there was a dark match pitting The Guns, Daddy Magic, and Cool Hand Ange against the acclaimed Daddy Ass and Scotty 2 Hotty. Now going by Scott Taylor, he's actually been quietly producing and coaching for AEW on and off throughout 2023, and he's been previously reported to want to join AEW full-time in 2024. I'm sure this was a good sign of that. He also entered the Too Cool theme, and that's very fun. And some nice news to end on today, as Gunther and his wife, former NXT UK star Jinny, have welcomed their first child together into the world. Gunther posted to X to say that his son was born on December 27th. Big congrats to all, and I look forward to seeing Gunther Jr.'s debut in WWE in about 20 years' time. But he'll be like the ring commander or something. What's higher ranking than a general? Anyway, over to Luke for the Dynamite review.
Thank you for that, Pete, but it's now time for my review of AEW Dynamite, aka the wow, loved all that wrestling stuff, not so much about the other stuff though, edition of AEW Dynamite New Year's Smash. In about 5 minutes though, might be longer. This show kicked off in a huge way with a triple threat semi-final for the Gold League of the Continental Classic between Jon Moxley, Swerve Strickland and Jay White. While I think more people have enjoyed the Blue League, I've enjoyed the Gold League, and I've loved the story of the dominating Moxley, I've loved the story of the heel come good Swerve Strickland, and I've loved the story of nasty heel Jay White, who, after Full Gear, needed a fair bit of rehabbing. The league has been so much fun, and the wrestling has been so incredible, so it was a fitting end to the Gold League that this match was absolutely freaking fantastic. This was pay-per-view caliber, and this was just, simply put, fabulous wrestling. All 3 men worked their asses off for this hot Orlando crowd, and in particular, I really like Jay White, who was the one to use the no DQ element of triple threat to his advantage, bringing out a chair whenever he could to get the heat. White was never able to fully capitalize on those heel ways, and Strickland came up short with his incredible near falls due to being an incredible wrestler, and it was Jon Moxley who came out on top, not only getting revenge for his loss to White last week by pinning him here, but also being arguably the most dominant performer in both the Blue and Gold Leagues. It was spectacular stuff, and a setup for a nice bit of drama for the finals of the Blue League. Will Moxley be facing off against his BCC teammate in Danielson, or will he go one-on-one with his best friend and fiercest rival in Eddie Kingston? I loved this. And because that took up 30 minutes of the show, we've got another near 25-minute banger coming up in a bit, it's time to do all of the talking segments in a row. Backstage, Tony Schiavone interviewed Strickland about his loss, and he set up a World's End match between Keith Lee, finally paying off that tag run. Renee Paquette interviewed Mariah May on the stage, who said that she'd be making her in-ring debut for AEW next week on the first Dynamite of 2024. She was then attacked by Riho for attacking her last week. Tony Storm came out for a brawl, and Riho stood tall. I'm a poet, and I didn't even know I was rhyming those words, but it happened anyway. Miss you, Captain Holt. Backstage, Top Flight and Action Andretti set up a Rampage match against Chaos, and Action Andretti debuted his new gimmick. He drinks water really quickly. I mean, it's seemingly impressive, but I reckon I could do that, you know. Do you know what? Let me stop this prompter. I'll give that a go. Let's have a look. It can't be that hard, can it? Okay, that's quite hard. Yeah, fair play, lad. Miro then set up a World's End match against Andrade El Idolo in a video promo, and our fifth and penultimate talking segment in a row ended with the Don Callis family. Remember in the week leading up to All In, and it turned out that AR Fox couldn't travel to the UK, so they did a huge segment on Dynamite where they did about 3 angles in one that saw a babyface turn, a friendship reunited, and a new match made for the pay-per-view? Mr. Wembley, it happened again. Quite a fitting reference, that. Kenny Omega is out of action indefinitely. Get better soon, Kenny. And that means the scheduled tag match of Ricky Starks and Big Bill against the Golden Jets couldn't take place, so a new match needed to be made. And in order to get to that point, this is what they did. Tony Schiavone interviewed the Don Callis family, who gave out Boxing Day presents. Sammy Guevara made his return. Sammy Guevara turned babyface. The Don Callis family turned on Sammy Guevara and kicked him out of the group. Chris Jericho ran out to make the save. Big Bill and Ricky Starks ran down to attack Jericho. Sting and Darby Allin ran down to save Jericho and Sammy Guevara. And Bob's your father's brother. We now have an 8-man tag for the pay-per-view. Did you get all that? It was a bit messy. It was a bit long. I mean, it had to be. It had 10 people involved, but it was helped by the crowd. Unlike the Golden Jets segment a couple of weeks ago that got over like a fart in a church because the crowd were not on board with the rather crap segment, this Orlando crowd provided lots of heat for the DCF, great return reactions for Sammy, and pops for Jericho, Sting, and Darby, as well as boos for Starks and Billiam. So overall, it was a segment, I guess. And finally, Roderick Strong cut a backstage promo with an It's Always Sunny style board that says MJF is the devil. Right, that is 6 talking segments in a row, 30 minutes of them, in fact. I think we need some wrestling. Oh good, Bryan Danielson's here. Bryan Danielson is without question one of the best wrestlers on the planet. Came 4th in our Wrestler of the Year. Go check that out over on the WrestleTalk podcast channel. There's a clip for that at the end of this show. And Eddie Kingston might be one of my favorite wrestlers to ever step in the ring. Because to Eddie, wrestling is real. This is still real to him, damn it. These two had a barn burner when Danielson first came into the company in 2021. Then they tore the house down in the Blue League 2 weeks ago. And here, in the final part of this trilogy, a trilogy where Eddie has never beaten Danielson, they saved the best for last. This was a perfect match, a brilliantly worked wrestling bout, and stiff as all get out. The heart of Kingston was enough to overcome the wrestling prowess of Bryan Danielson, and he finally slayed the dragon with a Kawada-style powerbomb. Beautiful, poetic, and downright brilliant. This tournament has been so damn good, and it's about to get even more dramatic as Moxley came out to cut a promo on Kingston, begging him to bring 100% and all he has this Saturday. Eddie fired back in only that way that Eddie can, asking Moxley to bring all of his fighting spirit because Eddie is going to enjoy busting it out of him. I loved this. I loved all of this, and I cannot wait for World's End. We were supposed to get an interview with Christian Cage and Adam Copeland, but Copeland decided he'd rather reenact his Lockdown Mania match with Randy Orton. Sky Blue beat Chris Statlander in a match that served a few different stories, and Renee interviewed Saraya, who is now friends with Harley Cameron, whose gimmick is she likes knives. Okay. And the main event saw MJF lose the ROH Tag Team Championships to the Putty Patrol when Samoa Joe was taken out backstage. Look, I'm no fan of the World Champion taking a pin before the World Championship defense at the pay-per-view. I actually really hate it. But if I am to take just one grain of positivity here, at least MJF doesn't have the ROH tag titles anymore, which, let's be honest, were dragging him down with Adam Cole not around. The Putty Patrol used the numbers to win and Joe ran down to make the save, but it was all a ruse to reveal that Samoa Joe has been working with the devil this whole time, and he laid out Max to stand tall ahead of the pay-per-view. A nice twist, but would have worked better, I personally think, if Joe turned on him mid-match. Overall, this was a show of some of the best wrestling you're going to see this year in the C2, and a bunch of other stuff that will likely divide an audience. This week's Dynamite is 3 out of 5. Our end of year award season is now over, so why not check out all of the shows by starting with Wrestler of the Year.
10. With 12 points, 4 nominations, 1 top level. Last year's number 3.
Ooh, it's gone down.
Roman Reigns.
I think that's fair to go down from 3 to 10 when you consider he's been around for about 5 minutes.
There's a reason why Ollie's got a shocked face.